Gabrielle Renee Barrett. She was 4.5 years old when she died at the hands of two people, including the defendant, Brad Fields. She died at the hands of people who were supposed to comfort her, protect her, and help her grow. Gabby Barrett did not get love at 84 High Meadow, or Green Meadow, excuse me. Instead, the evidence has shown that Brad Fields and Candace Diaz tortured and abused Gabby, and finally, ultimately, murdered her. I said, this is a case about two people. Together, these people killed Gabby. They were aiders and abettors, and that is the critical concept in this case. They worked together. They encouraged one another. They assisted each other in the child abuse, torture, and ultimate murder. Brad Fields and Candace Diaz are intertwined in this case from beginning to end. In the end, they sent their final love notes, love messages to one another, and took off to Georgia, where they were finally arrested, leaving behind their handiwork, the dead body of a 4.5-year-old child. The purpose of this closing argument is to review the facts, argue our theory, and show you how we believe these facts relate to the law. I'm going to discuss the law in this argument, and I've been doing this a long time, so I think I know what I'm talking about. But if anything I say is different from what the judge tells you, you are to go with the judge. I would suggest that in this case, the most critical concept, and I've already said it, is aiding and abetting. And for the last two counts, I'll explain conspiracy as well. Aiding and abetting. The crime charged was committed by the defendant or some other person. That means that the defendant participated.
Let me stop. Can we enlarge that a little bit, please?
I don't think I can.
Okay, go ahead.
The defendant participated in the child abuse and the torture that led to the murder of Gabby Barrett. The defendant performed acts or gave encouragement that assisted. And the defendant intended or knew that the crime would be committed when he gave the aid and encouragement. First thing I want to say to you, and then, it does not matter how much help, how much advice, and how much encouragement this defendant gave. However, it does matter whether he intended to help, encourage, or aid. I want to say right now that aiding and abetting is not going to show up on your verdict form. The aiders and abettors are exactly as responsible under the law as the principal who committed this crime. So if you believe he was the principal, find him guilty. If you believe he's the aider and abettor, find him guilty. Aiding and abetting, assisting, encouraging crime, the person is just as guilty as the person who did the actual act. And for the last two counts in this case, there is conspiracy charge, conspiracy to conspiracy to commit child abuse first and child abuse second degree. Conspiracy just means that you may have an agreement together to do the crime. And that is shown, the aiding and abetting in this case, and the conspiracy is demonstrated to you by the Facebook messages that we went through, and other evidence. I'm not intending to go through something that you already know and heard just for the sake of repetition. But I do want to go through some of those Facebook messages to show how they demonstrate the aiding and abetting, how they demonstrate the encouragement given by Brad Fields and Candace Diaz, one to the other, as they carry out their torture and abuse and ultimate murder of that little girl, Gabby. And conspiracy, as I said, is just an agreement to commit child abuse, first and second degree. Encouragement. This is from, I'm going to read these as they are meant to, as I think the message is meant to be. You obviously can decide whether I'm reading them correctly. They're printed out here as they come on the Facebook messages. Another week back on the floor. Looks like glad she didn't get her bed now. Another week where she has to sleep on the floor. That's from Brad Fields. Because they took away her bed as punishment for this 4-year-old. Candace Fields. So the sickness is leaving then. Then time to get harder on her. There's no excuse now. Harder on her. We know what they were doing to torture her. She's encouraging it harder. Ads maybe? Adderall? Don't need them. Don't need them. Does need Ritalin. Reeks of shit in her room. So probably shit herself. So tired this shit, I'm gonna hurt her real bad. She don't fucking stop. Encouraging the ongoing torture and abuse. Tired cleaning up piss and shit when tried to do house. Then beat her ass. My nails already got her back. And then Brad Fields some more. She's fighting to get up to go to the bathroom. She's fighting to go to the bathroom. A boat had dragged her and put a cold bath. I'm gonna get sick, whatever. And more. Brad gave her a cold bath. She won't even talk to me. She's trying to hit me. And yep, she hasn't said nothing to you. Brad Fields, this is December 5th. Stand her up, I guess. Put her in a bag. I don't know. What else to do? What else to do but put a baby in a bag? Diaper everywhere. In their part, I see Brad Fields. She's in a bag now. These messages, ladies and gentlemen, certainly show that they encouraged one another, that they aided one another, they assisted one another. That's evidence of aiding and abetting. But they show something else as well. They show motive. And they show motive. They show motive. And the motive in this case is as simple and as horrible as you can imagine, because it's pure hatred. The motive is, and I don't have to prove motive, but we know what it is. The motive is that Brad Fields simply hated Gabby. And that's what led to this torture and this abuse and this murder. And we know it because of his behavior, and we know it because of what we saw in videos, and we know it because he expressed it in those Facebook messages. Beginning in November 28th, these are just selections. She wants me to die. He's so self-involved that this 34-year-old, 34-pound, 4.5-year-old, he thinks that he projects his feelings onto her. She wants me to die, he says. And gets sick, apparently. She knows I can't handle it, so getting shit and piss on me on purpose. I don't fucking know. Fuck cold bath. And this is Brad Fields, also in November. She got out of the tub and said, "I'm not gonna fight you no more." Bitch, you doing it on purpose. It's official. He actually believes, communicates his hatred by suggesting that she is on purpose causing the torture and abuse that she's going through. I'm fina, meaning he's about to piss all over her face. She pisses on me again. That's what he threatens to do. And based on what we know that he did, I just don't know what really happened here. But he threatens to piss on her face. Does that shit again? She can drown in my urine, he says. Pure, unadulterated hatred. That's his motive. Cold bath time. Fuck her. What the fuck is her damn problem? This is a man who had hatred running through his body, through his mind, for this little girl. And that's the motive. I'm going to address the child abuse and the torture counts together and show you how the people have proven both child abuse first degree and torture beyond a reasonable doubt. First, I want to just take 1 second to talk to you about reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt does not require that I eliminate all possible conceivable doubt in a case. Reasonable doubt is a doubt that's based on
I'm talking about course decision.
common sense and reason. If somebody says perhaps at some point, maybe a neighbor came through a window and inflicted all those injuries and killed Gabby, that's not a reasonable doubt. That's not a doubt based on common sense and reason. And I would suggest to you, ladies and gentlemen, that if you brought your common sense, and I'm sure you did, to this courtroom today, there is no reasonable doubt in this case. You have the evidence that shows that Brad Fields, together with Candace Diaz, tortured and abused Abby right straight to death. Count on child abuse first degree. We have to show that Brad Fields had care and custody over Gabby, and we know that. They were in different locations. She would say that she was cleaning rooms. He would say, "When are you coming home?" We knew that he had the care and custody jointly when they were home together and individually when he was doing his abuse by himself. And he knowingly caused serious injury. And then it lists some of the injuries. Some of them, she had hemorrhage, that's bruises she had, and she was poisoned with Adderall. She got burned and scalded, and she had cuts. And if these are just a list that says including but not limited to. So how do we know that for sure? How do we know that this was an abuse? And then there's torture. He intended to cause physical pain and suffering. We know that happened. That he had custody and control. We've discussed that. And that he did inflict injury upon Gabby. How do we know how injured she was? Well, in part we know because of Gabby's little body. You know, she was a child who was never able, whose voice was never heard. She really was never able to speak for herself. She never was able to say to somebody, I'm being abused, I'm being tortured, I'm being hurt every single day in my home. But her little body, what she left behind, it speaks for her. And it tells us. You saw the pictures on autopsy. You saw the videos. You heard from Dr. Jensen. Gabby's body shows you all that you need to know about torture and child abuse, because it was all inflicted on her by her two torturers, the two people who were aiding and abetting each other in abusing Gabby. It's a horrible burns and the skin that was peeled off and found on in the bathtub, inflicted and potentially fatal. It was the bruises from head to toe and the ones in the scalp, potentially fatal and all inflicted. It was the hair forcefully ripped from her head and hemorrhaging, inflicted. It was the amphetamines in her system because they chose to drug her, and then she could not eat nor sleep, and she got more punishment. It was the malnutrition of a little girl who fat had actually collapsed on her body, according to the medical examiner, because she wasn't being properly nourished. It was the state of her teeth and the tear that was healing in her frenulum, and the fresh wounds on her mouth where her teeth impacted on her mouth, and that final fatal assault that the medical examiner told you led to asphyxiation. It is Gabby's body that tells you she was abused and tortured. She had a voice. Her body says, look at what they did to me. And we are asking you to look and to hear Gabby. And there's more evidence. There's more evidence of torture and child abuse on those videos that we watched. They took a little girl who was normal. Her teachers told you she was a normal, average child, and turned her into what appeared to be a caged animal, trying to comfort herself on a floor in November and December with only plastic bags. That, ladies and gentlemen, is torture. trying to fend for herself, find a way to comfort herself in her plastic bags while they watch on the nanny cam and laugh. Bradfields had care in custody, jointly with Candace, individually at times. And all of his actions before and after the murder show a man who was fully involved in only himself and fully involved in getting and abusing and torturing Gabby, excuse me. He lied from the start when he was confronted by the police, and he tried to blame her death on Doritos. That's what and then he changes it to fall in the tub and other nonsense. But the thing is, that's what us lawyers call consciousness of guilt. It's a guilty conscience that would lie and say, oh, it's some Doritos. Oh, I don't know how all that shit happened, but he knows that she's been down for a half hour when asked. And he knows enough to lie because he is fully involved up to the very last breath taken by Gabby Barrett. And the real Bradfields comes out somewhat in those initial videos from the body cam when he's as nonchalant as can be and very uninterested in what happened to Gabby and why she was just taken out with hardly a heartbeat and not breathing, but super concerned about his cell phone.
Those days you wanted to take a bath at Street Lodge Street.
How long she been down?
About how long?
A half hour, I'd say now, maybe.
And that's him. He knows she's been down a half hour because he was fully involved right up until the end.
But she was up all fucking night. I mean, we know that much. But we don't know why. Because she got adrenals, all kinds of stuff.
And he was there while she was up all night, suffering. And he says it.
Did you talk to him? Not much. No.
That's what the mom said.
Yeah.
So you didn't know this baby was on purpose?
I noticed that shit when I was doing CPR there. So something, it looked like bloody. It didn't look burnt, it looked bloody to me, not burnt.
So you don't know nothing about that?
No, she was up all night. She was up all night. No, I went lying.
Next.
This whole situation's all confusing to me. Gabby drowned in the tub, and we freaked out, called 911, etc. She can tell she's got water in her lungs. Don't know what's going on there. I need to be at the hospital. That's freaking me out. I don't know what's going on with that child.
So it went from Doritos, fell in the tub, up all night, I don't know, to now she drowned it. But you know, because Dr. Jensen testified that there's no evidence that this child drowned. What the evidence is that she was abused from her toes to her head. And finally, her little body gave out.
Is that what's going on here?
Pretty much.
I thought you only used one CPR on the child, not being child.
Yeah, I guess, yes. Pretty much, yes. That's what I'm getting out of this, bro.
I'm sorry, but we got to hear that.
I said yes. That's what I am getting out of this, bro.
Okay, well, they're concerned that there might be evidence of stuff on your phone. So there's the reason why there's
And that's his question. That's his concern. And you know what? His uncle told him something that somehow, I don't know how, was acted on. Because there must have been something on that phone, and we know there was because of the Facebook messages that we recovered from Candace Diaz's phone and the other text messages. And that phone, whatever photos, whatever other evidence of abuse, whatever other evidence of torture, was wiped. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is evidence of consciousness of guilt as well. The major charge in this case is felony murder. Felony murder is a second-degree murder committed during the course of another felony. Second-degree murder, ladies and gentlemen, is we have to prove that he caused the death of Gabby Barrett, or he aided and assisted another. Remember, aiding and abetting applies to every single charge, except for the conspiracy, which is a different sort of aiding and abetting. It's very similar. Cause the death with one of 3 states of mind, and we only have to show one, that he created a very high risk of death or great bodily harm, knowing that death or great bodily harm is the likely result of his actions. So we don't have to prove, ladies and gentlemen, that he intended to murder her, only that he intended to commit great bodily harm, and he knew that the likely result of those actions would be the death or great bodily harm, and you can see exactly what he and Candace Diaz did to create the high risk of death. They inflicted potentially fatal injury after potentially fatal injury. Felony murder, the first charge in this case, is second-degree murder plus torture. That equals felony murder. We've already discussed how the evidence proves he participated, he aided and abetted, he inflicted torture on Abby. Or felony murder is second-degree murder plus child abuse, which has also been discussed before. The evidence has proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Brad Fields certainly committed second-degree murder. The evidence has proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Brad Fields certainly committed torture. The evidence has proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Brad Fields certainly committed child abuse in the first degree. And either of those offenses equal felony murder. Dr. Jensen explained to you how those assaults at different times, the burns, the asphyxiation, the torture that her body endured, all combined with those last burns and the hand over the mouth, finally led to the death of Gabby Barrett. Brad Fields created a high risk of death, great bodily harm, during his participation in this torture, his participation in the abuse. It led to death. That is felony murder, ladies and gentlemen. And before I wrap this portion up, I want to talk a little bit about Gabby herself. You know, she was a special, unique child, just like all of our children. She was capable of love and forgiveness in a way that really should be, and I hope is, inspirational to us all. She loved school and playing and was average, according to her teachers, just regular. She only wanted to be a normal kid, and you saw it in the videos. She tried so hard to make her body comply, to do what was asked of her, to be obedient. But the hatred that Brad Fields demonstrated was all she really knew at that home. But she, little Gabby, was willing to go and hug him on Christmas for that doll because she had forgiveness in her heart, even as she was being tortured and abused, and at that point had 1 week left to live. I do think about a quote. It's from Anne Frank. Despite everything, I still believe people are good at heart. To me, that summed up Gabby's approach, because she just wanted to play and go to school and be what she was and find good. We can't bring Gabby back, ladies and gentlemen, but we can't bring her spirit back in the world. We can be inspired by what we know from this case, and what we can do is look at the evidence, which is what I ask you to do. Look at the evidence and do justice. Justice because the evidence has proven that he committed each and every crime that he was charged with. The evidence has proven that he is a child abuser, he is a torturer, and he is a murderer. I ask you now, as I will ask you later, to do justice based on the evidence. You know, they took a child who looked like this in September and turned her in to this in 3 short months. That, ladies and gentlemen, is why the evidence I want you to look at as you make your decision in this case. Find him guilty of the crimes he committed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to give you a 10-minute recess. All rise for the jury.